If you saw my unboxing video from a day or two ago, you know that this box just came in the mail, and inside this box were two amazing gifts. This, the Panasonic LX10 premium compact camera, and a GoPro Hero 9 Black. These two amazing gifts came from a viewer of my videos, a man from Malaysia who's currently living here in Thailand. And I realized that in my unboxing video, I kept referring to him as my mysterious benefactor. And that's actually a little bit odd. You know, he's not mysterious. What I meant to say was he's a mystery benefactor, meaning, I know who he is, but to you, he's a mystery. You don't know who he is, so he's a mystery benefactor, not a mysterious benefactor. Anyway, just one of those things that happens when you're filming a video. Your brain comes up with the wrong words sometimes. Even though there were two amazing cameras in that box, today is going to be all about just one of them, the Panasonic LX10. I'm going to take the GoPro Hero 9 Black and set it aside for now and save that for a different video. And in fact, today I'm keeping things very simple, and I'm filming on my trusty GoPro Hero 7 Black, which I got from Armando. So I refer to this GoPro as Armando, and I know this camera inside and out, and I'm very comfortable using it. So just to keep things simple for today and not use two completely new cameras, the Hero 9 Black and the LX10, I'm just going to be filming on the Hero 7 Black and kind of playing around with the LX10 for me to get to know it a little bit better. And then, you know, since I unboxed it on video, people out there I thought might be a little bit curious about what this camera is like and what it can do. So that is what today is all about. So this is a Panasonic LX10. As I said, it came out in late 2016. I think November of 2016. So you can think of it as a 2017 model camera. It was released by Panasonic for the year 2017. I think it had a price when it was first released of $700 US. It has a 1-inch sensor built into this small body, as I said in the unboxing video, and that puts it in the same category as some other premium compact cameras from Sony and Canon. In particular, the Sony RX100 series and the Canon G7X series. All those premium compact cameras are really attractive to a YouTuber like me because they are so small and light, and they have such high quality optics and sensor, but they've also been very problematic for YouTubers. For example, the RX100, as amazing as it was, didn't have a microphone jack for the longest time. I think the RX100 1 through 6 never had a microphone jack, and through most of those iterations it didn't even have a touch screen, which was an incredible oversight, particularly for such an expensive camera, because the Sony RX100 is you know, probably double the price of a camera like this. So it's kind of weird that it would lack such a basic feature as a touch screen. And since it's such a popular type of camera for vloggers, that it wouldn't have a microphone jack. The Canon G7X was similar in that the original and the Mark II both didn't have microphone jacks. And the Canon had another problem in that it used only contrast autofocus, which doesn't work that well in video mode. It's a very fast and accurate focusing system for taking pictures, but in video, this autofocus system doesn't work that well. It takes a while to like pick the focus point, and then it hunts a little bit. It uses this system where it goes in and out of focus constantly to keep dialing in the perfect focus point. And I guess that works well for taking pictures, but when you're watching the video, you can see that pulsing, particularly in the background. Even if the subject is in focus, quite often the background is like pulsing in and out of focus. And a lot of people don't even notice that. But once you start looking for it and you see it, you can never unsee it. You just sort of end up fixating on it. So that, contrast detect autofocus was sort of a problem for the Canon G7X. The Sony had phase detect. It had amazing autofocus, but it was let down by the lack of a microphone input jack. And this one, the LX10, which came out at the same time as some of those models, also lacks a microphone jack, which is probably its biggest issue as a vlogging camera. There's no way to plug in a microphone, and I've already tested this, and the microphones that are built into it, they're good enough for a home movie if you just want to hear sound. But if you want to post something publicly, the built-in mics probably aren't good enough. So to use this for YouTube, you sort of have to record audio from a secondary source, either a dedicated audio recorder in your pocket or a second camera, which is what I usually do. If I'm shooting with two cameras, I'll have one without audio, and then the other camera that has a microphone input, like this GoPro, I'll use the audio from that camera and the video from this one. That's the basic idea. Things change though. The latest RX100, the Mark 7, it does have a microphone jack. And the Panasonic G7X Mark III, it also has a microphone jack. So both of those now are more suitable for vlogging, if someone wanted to go that route. By the way, if you see me waving my arms around like a madman, it's just because I'm being eaten alive by mosquitoes. I don't know where they've been hiding all this time, but I haven't been bothered by mosquitoes for months in the time that I've been here, but they suddenly are everywhere right now. My room is filled with them, and they're all over me right now. So I'm kind of swatting them away as I'm chatting here outside. Just to get some numbers out of the way for this LX10, as I said, it is a 1-inch sensor model, 20 megapixels. This lens is a 24 to 72 millimeter zoom lens, f1.4 to 2.8. Though I'm learning that those numbers are a little bit deceptive. Of course, manufacturers always do that. They give you the numbers that look the best on the marketing material, but it is an f1.4 lens, but only at the widest setting. So if you have it at the widest the lens can be, then it's f1.4. So at 24 millimeters, it's f1.4. But if you go like even the tiniest bit in, as soon as you hit like 28 millimeters, suddenly it's an f2.8. So it's only 1.4 at the widest. And you almost never shoot at that setting anyway, because at 1080p and at 4K, it doesn't use the entire sensor. It crops in a little bit on the sensor. The Sony, for example, one of the reasons it's so expensive, it's a more technically advanced camera, it has full sensor readout for everything. So every setting, you're using the entire area of the sensor. But for this one, it crops in a little bit when you go to 1080p and only uses like a smaller, it cuts off part of the sensor basically. And then it becomes, I believe, a 30 to 90 millimeter lens. So in fact, at its widest, it's only 30 millimeters. It's not even 24 millimeters anymore. And then if you shoot in 4K, which by the way, this camera can do, at the time it came out, that was quite a unique feature. Not a lot of cameras of this size were shooting 4K video. This was one of the first to do so, I believe. But when you shoot in 4K, it crops in even further, and the lens becomes, I believe, a 36 millimeter to 108 millimeter. And of course, it's not shooting at f1.4 anymore either. But I should say those are just numbers that don't really mean anything. You grab this camera And you think, oh, it's f1.4, so I'll get a really blurry background. And when you take a picture, maybe it was actually at f2.8, but when you look at the picture it took, it's like, wow, amazing picture. So you can kind of throw away the numbers. You know, got to look at the pictures it takes and the video it takes. And if it takes beautiful pictures, what do you care about the numbers that are behind all those pictures, right? So yeah, that's kind of how I think about it. A very useful feature of this phone is that it has a flip-up LCD screen, which you see there, which makes it very handy for being able to see yourself and frame the shot, whether you're holding it by hand or, you know, putting it on a tripod. That's always nice to have. And there's a lot of debate over whether having it flip up is better than having it flip to the side. I know that Sony came out with some cameras they said were designed for vlogging, and one of the reasons they're designed for vlogging is that it had a flip-up screen, so you could see yourself, but it was just such a weird system because Sony's had a hot shoe for microphones, like a microphone input, and then the shoe for the microphone was on the top. So when you put a microphone on top of the camera, suddenly the screen was useless. So the two features you'd want for vlogging, the screen and the microphone, they said, hey, we just gave you a camera that has both of them. Aren't you happy now? And it's like, well, no, because they conflict with each other, you know, and why camera manufacturers make these decisions, I'll never know. If you're going to give someone a microphone and you got to put the microphone on top of the camera, well, then the screen should flip out to the side. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out, but Sony really dropped the ball on that one. And in this case, it doesn't matter. You can have the flip-up screen, which I like much better than the ones that flip to the side. And it doesn't matter because there is no microphone jack. So you're not going to put a microphone on top of this camera. And one thing I've learned, which is kind of funny, this is something I didn't know about the camera, is that it is such a small and compact camera that there's a lot of buttons on it. And if you are holding on to the camera and manipulating it and doing things, it's really easy to accidentally touch some of these buttons. And you really have to develop some good habits in terms of where you put your thumb and your fingers so you're not accidentally triggering something. But I learned that once you flip this up, you've got this huge space at the back of the camera that's just completely empty and blank. So you can hold on to that with as many fingers as you want, and you're not going to touch anything by accident. So instead of trying to hold it, you know, delicately by placing your fingers, you just sort of, as soon as that goes up to the top, then basically you can just grab it anywhere you want and hold on to it that way. And it's like, oh, okay, that works much better, you know. So now I can hold on to it so easily because I have all that space for my fingers, which is an unexpected benefit of this system. Some other key features: it's relatively lightweight at 310 grams, and it has an aperture ring on the front. So it has, some people like it, I've been reading, and some people don't like it. I happen to like it, that you can control the aperture with this ring on the front. Yeah, find that very handy. And it has stabilization. It has 5-axis in-body stabilization, which is good, but it's designed, I believe, mainly for hand holding. So if I'm standing still, shooting video or taking pictures, that 5-image stabilization works beautifully. You don't need anything more than that. You know, if I'm shooting video like this, that 5-image in-body stabilization is great, but it isn't strong enough for walking. You know, if you're like vlogging, that stabilization doesn't work well enough. To get that, you sort of need some electronic stabilization on top of the in-body image stabilization, and this camera doesn't offer that. So this really is a stationary camera design, at least the way I would use it. If I'm walking along and I want to take video, then I would stop and then shoot video of whatever's going on or put it on the tripod. But I wouldn't use this for walking and talking and aiming it at myself. I've done some testing, and I'll do a little bit of that today just to show you. But I found it was way too bouncy and a little bit tight on my face. It's not wide enough. For that, I prefer a GoPro. And what else? It's solid. That was something I noticed right away. It is small, but this thing is well built. This is a solid, it's like a brick. 310 grams, but you could really feel it. And it's all metal. I think the body is made out of metal. It's not a plastic body in any way. The funny thing is, when you look at a camera like the GoPro, in particular this GoPro Hero 9, I mean, the GoPros are getting bigger. So this is much bigger than the Hero 7 Black, but there it is compared to the LX10. And it's getting to be, you know, pretty chunky for an action camera, isn't it? But I don't know, 75% of this is battery. You know, when you open this up and you pull out the battery, it leaves this gaping cavern on the inside. And I swear, if you took all of the electronics in a GoPro and condensed it into a solid shape, it'd be like the size of a sugar cube. There's so little actual camera here. Most of this is battery, and then battery plus screen, of course. But yeah, it's incredible how little there is really here. But not so with this camera. The battery down here in the bottom is actually quite small compared to the body size. So most of this that you're looking at is real electronics and lens packed into this very tight, very compact form factor. Feels really solid in your hands. What doesn't it have? I've mentioned the most important ones. Yeah, the most important ones already. No microphone input. That's the biggest problem for someone like me, is I can't plug in a microphone, and the stabilization is not good enough for walking around, you know, not like a GoPro. And on top of that, it also uses only contrast detect autofocus. So you do run into that situation, even if I have it on a tripod and it's locked on focus on me, I can see the background pulsing, because that's how that system works. And then if I'm walking around, it will often lose focus on me and focus on something else and then come back to me. It's constantly thinking. It's a thinking man's camera. It's always wondering, what should I focus on? Whoa, this, no, this. And that, of course, is not good if you're wandering around and just sort of shooting, you know, on the run. You need something a bit better than that for focusing, or like a GoPro, which focuses on everything and you never have to think about focusing. And it doesn't have a viewfinder, so you can't hold it up to your eye, you know, and look through a viewfinder. And that's the trade-off. When you get a camera this small, they have to get rid of things. And you could say, wow, I wish Panasonic put a viewfinder on here. Well, they could do that, put a viewfinder, they could add all these things that you want, but then of course the camera will be, you know, 50% larger all of a sudden. And then you're thinking, oh, I wish it was smaller. And of course Panasonic is probably thinking, I wish these consumers would make up their mind about what they want. But yeah, no viewfinder, which to me so far is not really a problem because of the way I would use this camera and the LCD screen. It's a TFT-LCD screen, very bright, very sharp, and I find that works really well. A surprise for me in the 2 days that I've been using this is how actually good the focusing is, in a way. I was using it inside my guest room here, just testing it, and it outperforms my big camera, my G85, in that if I, you know, focus on this, it focuses. I change to there, focuses. It will focus very quickly on everything I pointed at inside a dim room. And that impressed me, because my other Panasonic, the G85, it won't do that. It won't trigger itself to focus. So with the G85, I'll aim it at something new, and I'm waiting and come on, focus. Then I have to hit the shutter button. You press it down halfway, and that triggers the focus, and then it locks on, and then I move it to something else, and then it won't refocus on that new subject. And these cameras have very complex menu systems, and you can go deep into it, and they have all these focusing menu systems where you can set sensitivity levels for how quickly or slowly it changes focus, how sensitive it is for this or that. And I played around with all the settings on the G85. Nothing seems to make any difference. It always operates the same. But this one, I've noticed a big difference. If I turn the sensitivity on, what it does is the camera waits until the shaking stops, and then it reacquires focus. That's the way this sensitivity feature works. So if I'm moving it and then I hold it steady, as soon as I hold it steady, the camera knows it's a new subject, and then it gets focus. And if I move it again, as soon as I stop, it acquires focus. If I turn that feature off, then it operates like my G85. I hold it, and it won't focus, won't focus, won't focus, won't focus, won't focus. But I turn the sensitivity on, focus, 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 focus. It works really well. The problem is that once it gets that focus, then it starts doing its hunting business, and then everything starts blurring. So that's, half of one, half a dozen of the other. Is that the expression? So yeah, that's kind of what it's missing. The viewfinder, the microphone, stabilization, but that's what it's missing if you're trying to use it as a vlogging camera, walk and talk vlogging camera. And that is not my idea for this camera. My idea is to use it in a situation like this, where I have one camera aimed at me, the GoPro with a microphone, and then I'll have this camera on this tripod. I put on this little quick release thingamabob. So, I'll have this on this tripod, sitting somewhere else, maybe focused right at my face. So that's wide view, this is narrow view. Or I'm eating lunch, this is capturing my lunch in front of me, and I angle this downwards, to get a nice close-up of the meal. Just having two cameras operating at the same time. That's my plan. And my other plan is to just carry it around all the time. Just have this in my knapsack, 24 hours a day, it's always with me. I see something interesting, take some video of that, take a picture of that. And this will be kind of my just walking around camera. I think most people have left point and shoot and compact cameras behind. They just use their smartphone for all of that, taking pictures and video. And I'm just not a fan of the form factor, and I'd like to have a specific tool for specific things. And for me, it's a phone. It's an internet access device. It does all those things, and then this is for taking pictures. That's what I like to use it for. So that's my idea for the LX10. I think that's everything I wanted to say about it technically. Let me check my notes, and then I'll get back to you. No, I think I covered most of the basics. I could talk a lot more, of course, but I'm not here to do a review of the camera. I just wanted to go over the basics. So I'm going to do a couple of small tests here just to demonstrate how this camera works. And we can compare it to the GoPro, for example. Test number one, I guess, kind of an image quality comparison, because I have the Panasonic LX10 running right in front of me. I'm looking at that camera now, and beside it is the GoPro Hero 7 Black, recording the same image, exactly the same time, and same lighting conditions. And you can see I'll flip back and forth between them. This is the LX10. This is what it looks like in these conditions. Everything is set on program, everything's on automatic. And this is the image from the GoPro. As you can see, a big difference is the field of view. I have the GoPro set on linear, which is its narrowest. And one thing I noticed about the Panasonic, let's go back to that. So there's the Panasonic. One thing I noticed is that I set up the shot by looking at the screen, and then when I hit record for video, it did something very surprising. It really tightened the field of view. So I thought it was much wider, and I thought, wow, that's actually a 24 millimeter view. But I'd forgotten about that, crop factor. And as soon as you hit record on video, you really get tighter on your subject, and that can come as quite a surprise. You got to keep that in mind. You frame the shot, hit record, and then it's just like zooms in like it's binoculars or something. Back to the GoPro. And yeah, I mean, the GoPro image I'm very familiar with. Anyone who's watched my videos probably knows it well. It's very saturated colors, very bright, and perhaps a digital look to it. Everything is in focus, which is a kind of nice wide field of view. Back to the Panasonic. I'm curious how well, is it keeping focus on me? I don't see the camera doing anything from here. I don't see it working to acquire focus. And I can't see the background, whether it's pulsing or not. Oh, I just realized I've been staring at myself on the screen the whole time. The screen is nice because you can see what's going on with the camera, but it is very distracting. You end up admiring yourself on the screen too much when I should be looking at you, and you're on the other side of that lens. So you really have to train yourself to be aware of that screen, but look at the lens. And that's quite often, even when a camera has a flip out screen, I don't even use it. My Panasonic G85, it flips out to the side, and I never use it because it's just too distracting. Being over there. Plus, I'm nervous about it. It sticks out, and I'm nervous I'm gonna hit a fence post or something and snap it off. So I usually just fold it away. I don't even use it. And in this case, I might end up doing the same thing with the Panasonic. Once I get used to the field of view, I won't need the screen anymore. I'll use the screen to set up, and then I'll flip it out of the way when I'm actually shooting. Panasonic LX10. Meet the GoPro Hero 7 Black. So let's continue this test, but let's do a little bit of an audio test. Right now with the GoPro, I have the audio being recorded by the Rode Wireless Go microphone. As always, I have it sitting here underneath me on a cord. And when I go back to the Panasonic, I'll switch to the Panasonic audio. So here's the Panasonic, and now you're listening to the audio as recorded by the Panasonic's built-in microphones. And it probably won't be very clear or loud because the camera's, a fair distance away from me. It's further away than it would be if I were vlogging. If I were vlogging, the camera would be right here. But it's actually, I can't, it's quite a bit farther away from me. Back to the GoPro and the Rode Wireless Go. I'm very happy with the sound of the Rode Wireless Go. I'm having some technical issues with this one. The audio is breaking up a little bit sometimes, so there's something weird going on. I haven't fixed the problem yet, but I do like the sound. And this is back to the sound on the Panasonic. Yeah, I think I'm going to do another test. I'm going to zoom in on my face a little bit, again, which is something the GoPro can't do. So that's another advantage to the Panasonic. I can zoom in, and you can get a closer look at my sweaty face this morning. Okay, this ought to be a very interesting comparison. Of course, this is the image from the Panasonic, the LX10, because I've used the telephoto to zoom in on my face. And all the audio for this is going to be coming from the Rode Wireless Go. I won't use the audio from the LX10 anymore. I don't really need to test it because I know I wouldn't want to use it. So I'll either use the LX10 with like no audio at all, just for B-roll, or I'll cut in audio from another source. I know I'll always do that. So I'll just sort of forget about audio as far as the LX10 is concerned. And I changed the focusing. It is now set to face and eye detect. So I've got this box around my face and little crosshairs on my eyes. I can see them on the screen, and it's following me as I move around the screen, trying to track me. And I wonder if while it's tracking me, it's making the background pulse like crazy. I can't see on the screen from here, whether it's doing that or not. I was looking at the screen again that whole time. Focus on the lens. Yeah, I'm curious whether you can really see the difference. Like now I'm looking at the lens, now I'm looking at myself on the screen, and now I'm looking back at the lens. I'm wondering whether there's a big difference in my eyes. looking back at the screen again. Because I noticed with my G85, there's a big difference because the screen is off to the side. And if I look to the side, I can really see what I'm doing with my eyes, and it's really distracting if I go from, the screen to the side to the screen. But somehow having the screen above the camera, it isn't quite as dramatic an eye shift to go up and then go down, back up, and back down. Well, I'm having a lot of fun with my LX10. Okay, over to the GoPro. So this is by comparison, this is the scene you'd be getting from the GoPro this whole time because, of course, the GoPro can't zoom in at all. Can't do anything unless I move the camera closer. And of course, the closer the GoPro gets, the more distorted shapes become because of that wide angle fisheye effect. So you really don't have a lot of options from the GoPro in terms of zooming in and out. But over there I have my Panasonic, and if you ever wanted to, you can zoom right in on a person. And of course I can lean over and zoom out using the zooming in and zooming out. Yeah, so now we have a wider field of view. Okay. I think in terms of focusing on me, that is enough testing. Back to the GoPro, you can see the image quality difference between the GoPro in this lighting situation and the Panasonic. Back to the Panasonic. And the other thing I wanted to test right now was how the Panasonic operates in terms of being a product showcase. You know how YouTubers are always showing things to the camera and then they hold it up to the screen and then they hope the camera focuses on that object and then focuses back on their face again. And my Panasonic G85, forget about it. It won't do that at all. So I pretty much have to manually focus all the time with that camera. The Sony ZV-1, another 1-inch sensor, it has a special dedicated focusing technology built into it. I think it might even be called product showcase or something like that. But that's what it's designed for, to be really good at focusing on things up close and then back on the person and then on the object, back on the person. That's what it's designed to do. And I'm curious how well the LX10 does. So I will test that now. Okay, I'm back on the Panasonic LX10 with audio coming from the Rode Wireless Go. And I'm here, your typical YouTuber, and I have things I want to talk about. So I have things I want to show you. I've mentioned my Panasonic G85 quite a bit, so I brought it out for a show and tell. Here is my G85, and of course I want to give you a closer look at it. And I changed the focusing system, so now it's more of a center diamond pattern for the main focusing area. I assume I'll be holding things in the center, so maybe that will work better. So here's my G85. Is it focusing? No, I don't think it's focusing. There, I think it finally focused, didn't it? So now my G85 is in focus. Pull away. Back on me. Well, got there eventually. Not bad. My eyes are not good enough these days. I can't really see a whole lot of what's going on the screen. Even these glasses don't help because they're meant for reading here and not that far away. Let's try that again. So there's my lovely G85. We're still waiting. LX10, we're waiting. Focus. Did it finally do it? I think it's hard to tell. Yeah, I think now it's in focus, right? So that's a nice image. I guess I just have to wait until it finally gets in focus. Now you can admire my G85, take it away, back on me. Yeah, and it focused eventually. As a quick aside, just now the memory card on the LX filled up, so I had to change the memory card. And one thing about this camera and many other cameras is that the tripod mounting hole, the screw hole on the bottom, conflicts with the battery compartment and the memory card compartment. So every time you need to change the battery or change the memory card, you have to dismantle the whole thing. I have to take it off the tripod. I have to remove my tripod mounting mechanism. Then you can open it, change the memory card, and then you got to put the mechanism back on, put it back on the tripod. And if you're a professional in a studio, that's bad because it can shift just slightly the angle that your camera was aimed at and change the settings. For me, it doesn't matter that much. But it's just one of these things where I see so many pieces of technology where the new marketing buzzword is for, oh, now we have 12K. That's why our camera is better than the competition. But these huge technical achievements like 12K, nobody can use yet and nobody needs. And they ignore all these simple things like, well, just move the memory card slot to the side so it doesn't interfere with when you have the camera mounted on a tripod. That feature, that I could use. That would make my life easier. But manufacturers tend to ignore a lot of these basic usability features. Bit of a pet peeve of mine. Back on the LX10 for more product showcasing, and I've changed the focusing to single point. So I've got a single point in the center of the screen. That is my focusing point, and let's see how that works. I have a very challenging item to focus on, my GoPro Hero 9 Black, because it's all black. There are no edges to focus on, so a real challenge here. I can't tell if it's focused or not. No, nothing. Oh, there we go. No, it won't focus. It's too much. I think you see so many YouTubers do this, you know, where they put their hand behind the object, hoping that will convince the camera to focus finally. I don't know if that's worked or not. I can't tell. And now is it focused back on me? This might be easier. The box for the Hero 9 Black. Will my LX10 focus on this or not? Let's see. Come on. I don't see any focusing going on. Oh, there it is. Finally clicked into focus, right? Yeah, it's way out of focus on me. And how long? Yeah, it eventually found me. I noticed with the previous focusing test, I had that diamond pattern, and I think the camera was looking at stuff behind me. That wall is more interesting to the camera than my face. So that's why I changed it to single focus. So if I stay right here, I'm right in the focus area and it should ignore the background. You have to learn how your camera thinks. You've got to get simpatico with your camera. Got a little light, I think, from the table. A little frog light. Let's see if my camera will focus on it. Yeah, I think it did. And it really changed the exposure as well as I moved in closer. Yeah, it likes this a lot. It has a lot more shape, a lot more things to focus on. Take it away, back on me. Takes a while, but it got there. Let's do that again. Yeah, you could see it kind of pulsing there as it was hunting for the right focus, but it got it eventually. And then you pull it away. Not bad. The Sony ZV-1 would handle this like a champ. It's just sort of like focus, focus, focus. I mean, it's just so perfect and so fast. But with a camera like this, you just got to be patient, I guess. Another object came in a box the other day, and I saw in a comment that I was pronouncing it wrong. It's not Glenfiddich, Glenfiddich. So I got a bottle of Glenfiddich single malt Scotch whiskey. So products showcase. Let's show everybody. Well, the exposure changed dramatically, but I can't tell if it really focused or not. Maybe it did. Whoa, the exposure really went wonky. And focusing back on me. It took a while. Glenfiddich. Yeah, there it worked. But I suppose I could, I could lock focus I still have it set on auto exposure, lock exposure. I have it set on auto exposure right now, which is why it's changing so dramatically. Yeah, okay. So I guess with this camera, you just have to be patient. I just have to take my time and remember to look at the lens. I can't expect instant response. So if I am actually demonstrating a product, I have to sit here and talk about it. This is my bottle of Glenfiddich, and then hold it to the camera, stop talking, wait for it to focus, and then start talking again. Pull back. Now it's acquired focus. Now I can keep talking. So I just have to pay more attention to the camera and what it's doing. But to be honest, I'm pretty pleased with that overall. I just have to dial in the autofocus settings a little bit, what points to use, being patient with it, but it's working better than I expected. I'm going to do a little bit of a walk and talk test with this camera. So I'm not going to use the Rode Wireless Go microphone anymore. I'm going to turn that off, go back to the Panasonic audio, and then just hold it like a vlogging camera and just walk a little bit here at the guest house. And you can see how well or how poorly the stabilization works. This won't be a true test for me because, a real test, I'd have to go into every single autofocus menu choice, test every setting, see which works best. But right now I have it on tracking. I've heard that the tracking mode works best for this kind of thing. So I'm here, in a shaded area, and I still have it set at 4K, so it's quite tight on me, and I'm standing still. So this is kind of how I see this camera working quite well for me. If I happen to be standing still or sitting at a table, then I think I can rely on the autofocus quite a bit, and the stabilization works quite well for this situation. The exposure seems kind of nice. But now let's go for a little walk along the sidewalk here at the guest house, and I'll keep talking to the camera. And the camera might struggle here because it is such a bright lens, and this is a very bright and sunny day. But this is what the stabilization looks like, and I'm kind of walking carefully, to be honest. If I were out in Mesot, I couldn't be this careful because I'm constantly dodging motorcycles and cars and trucks and trying not to trip over things, and I'd be walking a lot faster. Well, exposure there. Let's see if I stop here for a minute, what will happen to the exposure. And that's something else I guess you can play around with over time, learn how this camera works, dial in the right settings. Right now it's just on auto exposure, auto everything, and focus tracking mode. So not too worried about that right now. This is just a stabilization test. And heading back into the shade, see if it adjusts exposure or how long it takes to adjust to the dark setting. And you can see it adjusting. Yeah. So that seems to be the rule for this camera, or cameras like this. You basically have to be patient. Don't rush it. Let the camera work out what it wants to do next. And with this camera in particular, holding it in place like as a stationary vlogging camera would work, I think, quite well like this. Oh, it seemed to do relatively well with that test, though it is so hard for me to see on this small screen on the camera. And to be honest, even when I'm editing video, I'm doing it on my smartphone, and I've learned that when I'm looking at video on my smartphone, I get used to that small image, and it looks great to me. And then when someone out there in the real world is looking at that same video on their 42-inch 4K monitor, they're seeing problems and low light, artifacts and all kinds of noise, things that I didn't see because I'm always working on such a small screen. So I guess that's an argument against editing on a smartphone. because you don't ever see it on a big screen yourself. And you're the one who's supposed to be in charge of the quality. You're making the video, so I should really see it on a bigger screen. But there might be something going on in that regard, so I might have some news in a little while. I'm busy dealing with something, and I might have another unboxing very soon. We'll see how soon this happens, or if it happens. I stopped here because I have noticed that often the tracking or the focusing will misbehave if there's like something very interesting in the background, like those green trees. The camera will want to focus on those trees and leave my face, and the background might be pulsing all the time. So I thought I'd just stand here for a minute and see if there's any pulsing going on. Just to be thorough, I thought I'd do another stabilization walk and talk test, but now I'm in 1080p. Everything before this point was all shot in 4K, and a camera struggles with 4K. Every camera does, because 4K, they have to process so much information so quickly. It's a huge demand on the processor and the electronics in the camera. 1080p is much easier for cameras to handle, and you get a much wider field of view. So I just wanted to do a little walk here, but now in 1080p. Might be a bit more forgiving in terms of stabilization and in terms of the field of view, not quite as tight on my face. In general, I'm finding that the video looks a lot better when I review it in the shade than when I see it here in the bright sun. And that makes sense, of course, because the LCD screen is being washed out a little bit by the sun. So I've stopped here a couple of times on these tests, and I've looked at the LCD and I thought, looks kind of washed out, and I feel like I want to adjust the exposure. But then when I see it in the shade, when the lighting is better, then it looks really nice to me. So 1080p, tracking mode again. I have a center point right on my face, so the camera's supposed to be tracking me. All right, LX10, making you work really hard this morning. Okay, I'm going to do another quick test here in the guest house, where I'm just going to grab the camera and wander around and just shoot sort of B-roll shots, a lot of close-ups of things, which is how I think I'll be using this camera for the most part. And just for the sake of comparison, before I head off to the restaurant, this is the normal view of my life as seen on a GoPro. So if I'm walking down the sidewalk here at my guest house, this is again from the Hero 7 Black. And they tell me that the Hero 9 Black has much improved stabilization. The super smooth, it's version 3.0, and it's supposed to be much better than what's on the Hero 7 Black. Though I can't imagine it, to be honest. To me, this has always been so smooth and so steady that I certainly didn't feel the need for anything with increased stability, you know? But yeah, this is what the world looks like through my GoPro. And without me in the picture, just sort of looking at a few of the things that I was looking at with the Panasonic LX, like this fishing pond, this fish pond, or lily pond. And here's some of the fruit that I was getting close-ups of with the LX10. And that's kind of what the normal view you would get from the GoPro. Not quite as artsy and close-up as with the LX10, of course. And this fruit inside the plastic bags to protect them. And I also took a shot of some of this plant with the LX10. And that's what it would look like from the point of view of a GoPro. One thing I do like about the GoPros in general is the way they handle sky. I think on the Panasonic, that sky was kind of washed out, wasn't it? It has trouble dealing with the green trees and then the blue, bright sky with the white clouds. But with a GoPro, you always get this, what I think of as a nice exposure. And then looking back at the building where my room is, you see you get that blue sky. I think on the LX, that sky was just completely white, right? Wasn't it completely wiped out because it was too bright? But on the GoPro, you don't have to really worry about exposure, especially for this kind of shot. Everything, the blue of the sky and the clouds, the white, everything comes through. You just can't do the close-ups, of course, and other fancy things like these, this tiny fruit that I got a close-up of. It's about as, I don't even know if that's in focus on the GoPro, but there's some of that same fruit. And I think I looked at this view from the Panasonic as well. That's what it would look like from the GoPro. Okay, well, I have to charge some batteries. In terms of battery life, by the way, on the Panasonic LX10, I started this morning with a fully charged battery, and it died right at the end there, pretty much. So one full battery got me through that whole testing session, which isn't bad. Though with the Panasonic LX10, when it was sold and shipped, they don't give you a battery charger. It doesn't come with that camera. So you have to charge the batteries inside the camera just by plugging it in with a USB cable, which is what I do now. You can buy a battery charger, but you have to buy it separately for the LX10. Okay, time to charge some batteries, and then I'm going to head out for lunch. Intense testing of the LX10 is done here at the guest house. Time to head to Gao Mao Gao Feng for lunch. And I'm going to get there by scooter, of course. Scooter behind me. And where is the LX10, you ask? Well, it's a pocket camera, so it's in my pocket right now. It's not designed to sit on a scooter and be bounced up and down. It's not an action camera, so there's no point testing it by mounting it on the handlebars. I'll reserve that sort of thing for a GoPro. But just because it's in my pocket doesn't mean I can't just bust it out and start using it at a moment's notice. Got my GoPro mounted on the handlebars of the scooter and holding the Panasonic in my hand. And there's my GoPro mounted on the handlebars. You can see that flashing red light on the front. The tally light tells you that it's recording. And the only reason it's recording is because I want to record audio that I can cut into the Panasonic's video later on. And I can use, oh boy, somebody's mirror needs cleaning. And that's where I have the GoPro mounted on the handlebars. And I can also put a GoPro onto these sticky mounts here. And I'm still using my high-tech system of attaching my GoPro with gardening green wire, soft green wire that I picked up in the gardening section of DIY hardware. Okay, time to hit the road. Bit of a delay in my lunch plans. I guess I didn't take the key out of the scooter properly. I must have left some electronics engaged or something, because the battery's dead. Scooter won't start. It's either dead or the electronics, something is wrong. I think it's the battery. I think it just drained it somehow. Yeah, my landlord is going to help me call somebody, and maybe they can come and boost it. I noticed the tires need pumping up too. The tires are actually kind of low on air, so not quite ready to hit the road just yet. But we'll see how quickly I can get it fixed. I still might be able to go to lunch. Well, it turns out that there is drama afoot. I was just talking with my landlords about the scooter, and they said they could take it down to a shop for me to have the battery checked. But then I got the whole story. Quite a surprise. Turns out that a thief came onto the grounds the other night, last night, and went along all the scooters trying to steal them, and they cut some of the lines. I guess you can cut some lines and it releases the locking mechanism on the steering wheel, or they're cutting, I don't know. I couldn't understand everything, of course, but they said that two of the scooters had lines cut on them, and then when they brought my scooter to the shop to get the battery looked at, they said the lines on my scooter had been cut as well. So a thief had tried to steal it last night or the night before. I'm not sure exactly when this happened. And now everyone at my guest house is sort of on red alert. Apparently they hardly slept at all last night because they were perched around the buildings with the lights on, sort of waiting for the thief to come back to catch them in the act. So, drama. But instead of going to Gamao Gaofeng for lunch, I mean, I could go there a different way, but it's already getting closer to closing time. I don't like rushing. And right now, I'm just heading over to the Namaste Cafe to get a cup of chai and perhaps a fruit smoothie. And I'll break out the LX10 while I'm there and play around with it a little bit. Here we are back at Namaste. And I tried to come here a couple of times over the last 3 or 4 days, but they've been closed over the long weekend holiday. So this is my first time back for quite a while. So my chai has arrived. Nice and hot. That's what I love. I can barely even touch the cup. It's so hot. Nice. That chai masala, chai masala spicing. That flavoring. Oh man. Especially when it's this hot, I prefer it even over a my regular cappuccino. It's nice for a change. And since today is all about cameras, I have 2 cameras set up. I've got the GoPro over here, I guess kind of capturing a wide shot. And then I have the Panasonic LX10 right in front of me. I don't know, I don't think this is the ideal setup, but it's what I ended up with for now. One thing I'm learning very quickly, though, an advantage to the GoPro, which a lot of people may not think about, is that I think you look a lot better in a GoPro because it's further away from you and you just kind of look younger with smoother skin. And then you get a camera like the LX10, especially if you zoom in, you start to see every imperfection brought on by age and sweating, and my neck gets all hot and red from the heat here. It's a really hot day, so when you have a high quality lens at work with a 20 megapixel sensor, the imperfections are on full display. Nothing gets smoothed over, nothing gets hidden. And there's the cake I'm having. I think they called it like maybe a chiffon kind of cake. But they have a bakery here, so they make their own cake as well. And the cookies that I showed over here, you know, that are on display, they make those here as well. They do all their own baking. Oh, excellent. Thank you.
It's still a few days. It's very hot.
Yeah, it's a hot day.
Very hot.
Yeah, it's okay. It's good chai.
Okay.
But people on YouTube are talking a lot about chai or chai masala.
Yes.
Or what do you call it?
Masala chai.
Masala chai.
Yes.
Okay.
But not too much masala because I mix little masala. Because Thai people may most don't like.
Okay. My mango shake has arrived as well. Look at that. That's definitely suitable for a hot day like today. It's not many places that I go to regularly can make up a mango shake like this. I thought I could get one at Braverly. I went there the other day, yesterday I think, intending to order a mango shake just like this one. But I forgot they don't actually have this on their menu, so I was disappointed. I was just chatting with one of the owners here. As I said, there's 2 brothers run this place, Namaste Cafe. And I asked him about the name of this tea because I call it chai. And then people in the comments to my last video, of course, were saying, well, it's actually chai masala, which is, you know, the real name for it. But it turns out he told me you reverse it. So it's actually masala chai. But here, the market for a Maysod, he kind of reduces the amount of masala. A traditional masala chai from India, he said, would be much stronger, a much more richer, spicier. And this one is a bit mild, you know, to cater to local tastes. Tastes great to me. You even get the spicy aroma too, not just the flavor. Time to try this mango shake. Oh, I better have some quickly. It's starting to overflow. Oh, it's so nice. It's like thick, which I really love. You know, you have to work hard to get some of this mango goodness coming up through that straw. I love that. Anyway, it's time to have my cake. It's very light cake. And there's the name of the cake there. None of it is in English, so you'll have to translate that yourself. Cake. That's nice. Yeah, it is a chiffon. It makes me think of, it's a lemon cake, I think. A very light lemon chiffon, even though it has a orange-pink coloring. I think I want to say it has a lemon sort of a flavor to it. And I thought I would break out my Lumix LX10 while I'm sitting here. I changed it to a 1080p resolution just to get a slightly wider field of view. But 4K, it is so tight when I'm holding it like this. But just for fun, I thought I'd wander around the cafe a little bit and take some of that classic B-roll with this lovely Leica lens. See how that turns out. Well, I'm just leaving from Namaste Cafe. That's it there with the colorful awning. And there's its location right on the corner next to the Crua Canadian restaurant. I'm heading back to the guest house now, and just for fun, I don't have any kind of a microphone connected. So this is audio as picked up by the LX10. It's a built-in microphone. It's kind of a busy street, as you can see. A lot of traffic goes up and down this street. So we get quite a bit of traffic noise. See whether the camera's microphones can pick up my voice or not. Small break in the traffic. Running across. And I guess this is a good test of the stabilization as well as I'm walking along. Sure would be nice if this little camera had a microphone jack. I could plug in a little lavalier mic and be all set. Ah, look at this series of trucks parked outside the police station. I wonder if they did something bad to end up here. Or maybe they're just parked here for the convenience of the parking space. But they're great looking trucks though. They've seen some miles, these babies. There's the flag of Thailand against a pretty nice sky. It's kind of nice having a power zoom as well, to be able to zoom in and out smoothly. That's something else about my Panasonic G85. It came with the kit lens. It's a pretty good lens actually, the 12 to 60 millimeter. As kit lenses go, it's one of the best out there. But my copy of that lens, the zoom ring seems to stick a little bit. I can't seem to zoom in and out smoothly no matter how carefully I try. It kind of jerks along because it sticks a little bit. And here's another interesting site for my camera to test itself against. A colorful shrine. Against the sky. Okay, that is it for the LX10 for today. The battery just ran out of power. And I have another battery, so I could change it if I wanted to. But I think I have more than enough LX10 footage to satisfy myself about how it works. So I'm back on the GoPro for the final minute or two as I walk back to the guest house. I just wanted to have a camera running for when I find out what's wrong or what was wrong with my scooter. At the beginning, of course, I thought I had just left the key engaged or something and drained the battery, but then found out that somebody cut a cord on it, you know, cut some kind of a wire, and they had to take it to the shop to get it repaired. And my landlady said that, well, it happened on their property, so they'll cover the cost of, you know, whatever the repairs are. But we'll find out. With the language barrier, it's not all that easy to get stories straight when I talk to them. And something as complicated as this, I'm sure I'll never get the details quite straight in my head. And there's the flood control gate. And I seem to have more than enough technology right now that I have to learn how to use with 2 new cameras. But the owner of Namaste Cafe, he still is an avid photographer, but he doesn't have time to do much anymore. He's so busy with the cafe. So he said he has a Insta360 1X that he doesn't use very often and he wants to sell. So he asked me whether I was interested in it. And those Insta360 cameras, they look really interesting when you see the footage, the professional footage that people get out of them. But it's never appealed to me that much, that 360-degree view, giant bubble fisheye where you see the entire world all at once. Just seems like it might be a lot of work dealing with that kind of footage. And it's more camera gear to figure out. Might not be the best time right now to be doing that. Funny thing about this story with the theft attempt, a guy trying to steal the scooters, I do get warned a lot by people to be worried about theft and about thieves. And yet I never take the warning seriously because I never experienced anything like that myself here. But then when something like this happens, you start thinking, oh, okay, maybe the stories are all true and I should be more careful in the future. So here we are back at the guest house. And there's the scooter, so it's been returned. And I guess that's good news. They probably had to drive it back. And I wonder if they noticed that the tires were low. I think so. I think they've been pumped up. The end of the story actually involves less drama. If you see inside that little plastic bag, has my key in it. But there's also a tiny fuse. And apparently that was the problem with my scooter. With the fuse, some kind of circuit or fuse was blown. So the other scooters had cords cut. I still don't understand what cords were cut. I'm not quite sure why a thief would cut cords, but they tell me, they cut cords on these other scooters. They thought that's what happened to mine. But it sounds like, no, mine was just unrelated. It was just a blown fuse. Unless somehow the thieves tried to get my scooter started somehow, and they ended up blowing a fuse instead. I don't know. Whew, man, I shot a lot of video today with the LX10 and the GoPro, so I don't think I'll be able to use all of it, that's for sure. Feels like I've been shooting for hours. I'm all the way back where the day began, testing my LX10. So yeah, that's it for this video. And I guess tomorrow or the day after, I will fire up the GoPro Hero 9 Black, do a little demo with it. Not much of a demo because it's a very familiar camera. And then I guess head out to Gao Mao Gao Feng for lunch tomorrow.